took a little bit more than we expected, so I'm sorry to be late. I'd like to introduce Alan Goon, who out of his goodwill and good heart is going to take a picture of this class, makes you very famous. You're going to be in the annals of the Origami Center, the Friends of the Origami Center. He's not a folder, but he's a very famous balloonist. And he travels all over the world making original balloons that nobody's ever heard or seen of before. He makes them up. Anyway, he's a dear friend of ours, and he, by the request of the Friends of the Origami Center, who want to know, anyway, Westchester. She teaches in Westchester. And they've been bitten with the bug the same way as I have 40, 50 years ago. People look at me and say, what in the world are you doing? What are you doing playing with paper? And I used to feel guilty, thinking here I'm a grown woman and I'm sitting down for hours playing with a piece of paper. But when I had my first meeting and my first convention in my home many, many years ago, and I looked around and I see doctors and physicians and dentists and men of mathematical fame all sitting around as puzzled and as intrigued as I am. I realized that it's something that's universal. It's something that many people, and if they don't get bitten by the bug, I feel sorry for them. They're missing a lot of fun, because it's something that anyone can make. Child, grown up, anyone. Don't have to be smart. You have to have a love for it, because you do need patience. But many of us can develop that. And you don't have to make your own models, although that is something that's very exciting for anybody who starts, because it's the very simplicity of this wonderful craft. I say craft because the Japanese, who have really brought it to a flowering art, you know who invented paper? Any of you know? Those who do know, don't tell me. But those who are new, any of you know where paper originally came from? Who manufactured it, who invented it? May I hear a sound? Anybody make a guess? Can you guess, anybody? Well, how nice. It's the first time it's happened that I have to tell you. I'm always anxious to tell everybody, but they always knew. It was a Chinese scholar some 1,000 years ago who invented paper, and it came over to Japan, and because it was so expensive and rare and unusual, only the nobility had the privilege of handling a few sheets of paper that was given them. So it didn't get very far. They used it, and we don't have any record of it or any mention of it in any book, which is surprising, because I think Alice Gray told me once that she read in a book that one of the noble women who was trying to write some poetry, and of course they were very cultured and very educated in doing the things of the court, so she was writing poetry, and she wrote in her diary, "The muse has left me today, and I'm so frustrated that I took my paper and tore it and made a paper house." And that's the first indication we have in a book written in the 1800s that there was anybody using the paper in that fashion. Anyway, they had their own way of folding, and it has come down to us. We have found some of the old stuff, and we see what they have done. And then in the meantime, the Japanese children were brought up on it. Their grandmothers or their mothers taught them when they were very young. And we saw a moving picture of a group of children coming out of school, and they all had flapping birds in their hands, or the tsuru, or the crane, as it's called. And it looked like a little kindergarten class. So I said, "Oh, how nice, they've gotten a gift when they left school." And they said, no, it wasn't a gift. They had each made it. I don't believe it, because it was the first model I learned, and it seemed a very difficult model to remember. So when I did go to Japan, one of my trips, one thing I wanted to see was to go into a school and see if it really happened, if they really did know how to fold such a difficult model. So I went to one of the kindergarten classes, and the children all sat, and I don't know if you know, that it impressed itself on me that the children all have their hands under the table. Have you ever seen pictures of school children? See, when I was in Germany many years ago, that was the great thing that they had, such absolute observance to being quiet and listening to what the teacher has to say, and not speaking out loud, and doing all the things that we, our children, are allowed to do. So here the Japanese children were sitting with their hands underneath. I guess you know how many young children are so nervous or excited or something that they're always flipping with their hands and doing things. But they were trained. And I thought, what an advantage to have the discipline start so early. And then the teacher spoke to them in Japanese. I had a translator for me because I don't speak Japanese. And I was told that the teacher taught a lesson in paper folding, in origami as they call it. And then she said something to them, and they immediately got their hands out and started to fuss with their desk, pull out paper from the drawer. And they said, the teacher said, you may now make whatever you wish in origami. And immediately I saw 40 paper birds emerging the crane. They were all making the crane. So I saw with my own eyes that it was not too difficult for them. And I wondered why so few of our children have the ability to use their fingers at a very early age. And I wrote my own scenario. You know how the Japanese use chopsticks, and you know how children always want to do what the grown-ups do. So they must want at a very early age to use chopsticks too. And that makes you very agile with your fingers if you can use it. So that's my own scenario. I don't know if it's true, but I think maybe that's the reason, because our children are not enticed to do anything particularly with their hands. We let them look at the television, and of course it's a wonderful thing, but I feel that many lost hours there. Anyway.
They learn how to sing lullabies. My dear's alive, so I'm here.
That always made an impression with Verdi. Want to tell the story?
Yes, once upon a time, somebody came in and said, the woman told me that her husband came in and the child was singing a lullaby, 3 years old or 2 maybe. My beer is Rheingold, my beer is Rheingold. That's what they learn. That's very clever, the children are. They learn to sing lullabies about beer.
It's the repetition.
Or whatever else is on the television.
Anyway, they mostly do learn, and then they forget it, like children forget their blocks or their coloring books and put them aside. And I just felt that it was such a wonderful thing to have a tradition come down so long. So when I started with paper folding, when I learned that origami meant paper folding, ori means to fold, and the word for paper in Japan is kami, K-A-M-I. And when you put the two together, you change the K to a G, to a soft sound. I thought origami sounded so beautiful to me. I tried to learn what it was in Chinese, but when I ever asked anyone, how do you say paper folding in Chinese, I got a couple of grunts that I couldn't imitate. It's very difficult, the syllables they have there. But this was a lovely name, and so I adopted it for and now it's in the dictionary. It's remarkable. If you live long enough, you find things happening that are surprising. So this is a little cradle if you wanted to make a basket out of it and something to run it. See if you can do it. I'm sorry, I should have had this set up for you, but I ate too much ice cream. So now I'm very eager to teach. I love to teach. And I'm very anxious that this be carried on. So whenever I had a teacher come to me, I said, please go home and teach it. And please, anyone you teach it to, make them teach it and share it. Let's all get together and get excited about it, because it's so wonderful. First of all, most of my beginning paper folders were very poor, because you see, here's an interest that doesn't cost any money. It has an advantage that way of not costing anything but time and patience. The paper was so beautiful, the colored origami paper that always comes colored on one side and white on another. Bertie likes to keep his fingers busy like anyone else. Well, so now everybody knows more than I do, because all of these wonderful people, the friends, are spreading it and sharing it all over the world. And now we have about 15 origami centers in 15 different countries, including the USSR. And I was there myself many years ago, and I taught my little girl they gave us to take us around, because we weren't allowed to wander away from her when we were in Russia. But anyway, I want very much to teach it and to spread it. But there comes a day when you get old enough that your brains don't work and you can't even stand up. So I'm delighted that Michael Schall took over, which he's done years ago, came to me and made me many promises. His father was my pupil, and he loves origami the way I do. And we talked a lot about the future and what would happen, and he made me a couple of promises, and he's kept every one of them. And he was responsible, through Alice Gray, who worked with me as an associate for 30 years, that the American Museum of Natural History took over my collection. I gave them all my books and papers. Had I any idea at the time this was going to happen, I'd have gotten a decent collection for them. I would have gone and bought all the books in the world, but this was all for poor little me, and what did I need all those books for? As soon as Japan realized that there was a market here for origami books, because there was only one that I could get about 40 years ago, 50 years ago, they began sending them over, all these books, and they were all duplicates. So I never bothered about keeping them because I had so many of the same model printed over and over again. That's why my library isn't as good as it should be. But there was a man out west who made up his mind to get together as many books as he could. Do you remember his name? The man that wanted to sell his collection for thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And he had somebody in Japan, every time a book came out, send it to him. Or every time he found a second-hand book, send it to him. His collection was much better than mine. But it came a time when he had to sell it, and nobody had the money for it, because most of us folders are not very wealthy. That's why we love it as a hobby. Because if you don't have a piece of paper in your hand, you surely have a dollar bill. And we've made so many beautiful models. Here's a young lady that made a darling. I wish I had the, do you have a dwarf with you? Do you have a dwarf with you? You usually carry it around. She invented one out of a dollar bill that everybody now carries in their purse.
I don't know if I have one here.
And Diane is teaching out on the island, and it's so wonderful when I look around. I had one group meet 27 years, the second Monday of the month. They never missed a second Monday, and I never missed a second Monday. There were times I was out of the country, but there was always somebody at my house. So that led to 27 years, and now that group continuing is meeting here. Third Wednesday, is it? The third Wednesday, and if you're a member of the group, you can come and join if you want to learn more. Well, maybe you think I'm digressing a lot, but I wanted to tell you a little bit of the background. I went traveling with my husband, Harry Oppenheimer, on business around the country every year. And when we were in Cincinnati, when he went out on business, I went to the libraries, hoping and praying that I would find a book on origami. I never had any luck. I remember that the books were always next to the cooking books in the library. Wherever I went, I saw miles of cooking books, and never any, maybe one origami book. But in the Cincinnati library, I found one book. It was a paperback. Do you have it here? There it is. And in the back of it, it said, if anybody had any question about it, it's called Faceless Construction with Paper. It didn't say origami or paper folding, but I thought maybe that was something related. And so I noticed that she was living in Cincinnati, Mrs. Martin. So I went to the telephone, and no, first I thought I'll go and visit her. She'd let me. But first I said it wouldn't be nice unless I had a book. So I went across the street to the library, to a bookstore, and I asked for the book, and they didn't have it. Never heard of it. I said, well, the author is living right here in your city, and you don't have a book? So then I felt safe about calling her. And she was very kind and said, do come out, and gave me an address. So the next day, when Harry's man came to take him on business, they dropped me off. It was a long way out of town. And then a little lady who was lame, well, she was 80 years old at the time, Marie Martin. She lived in a little house with her husband, and she limped. She had been a kindergarten teacher. And she told me she learned it from a woman who she'd heard about, who lived in New York. She'd come in from Cincinnati as a young girl to take a course with this woman. Her name was Ebert, E-B-E-R-T. And this woman of 80, another woman of 80, both of them, but at different times. I mean, I'm confusing you. Marie Martin was 80 when I met her, but she told me about 30 years before when she had studied with an 80-year-old woman. who had been a babysitter. And she remembers the story of Miss Everett being hired as a babysitter. And when she came in, the children flocked to her. And when the mother and father went out for the evening and said goodbye, the children hardly could get rid of them quick enough. They wanted to have this babysitter who did paceless construction of paper with them. So the parents could go out knowing the children didn't care. And they were perfectly happy. Well, she... Would you?
No.
Good. Because it looks like I'm going to talk an awful lot. Please, if anybody objects to this, shut me up. So Miss Everett told her that before she came over to America, at one point she was a nursemaid in a lord's home in the nobility in Russia. And her charge was ill, and in the afternoon her mother, who had visitors, all flocked up to see how the child was and brought gifts. When they all left and the charge was put to bed, Miss Everett looked through the things and discovered a box, and it looked homemade. It was beautiful. She opened it up, and she learned to make it again by refolding it. And that box is something that she taught Mary Martin, and the box is something that I have known all these years, but I forgot about them. At one of the conventions, Mrs. Dakota, who is one of our greats in paper folding, came to the convention all excited. He had found a copy of this book, and here it was hidden in my library, and I'd completely forgotten about it. He was so excited about it. And we called it the shuttle fold. It's a fold that's made with a piece of paper, and it's called a shuttle fold because it resembles the shuttle used in weaving. When you throw your shuttle, when you're weaving with the warp and the woof. The unfortunate part is that none of our children know what weaving is today, and they've never seen a shuttle, and they're not familiar with it. So, but nevertheless, we kept the name. And that's how I can take you back a couple of hundred years. When I came into the house, there was a little round oak table, dining room table with chairs around it, and it was piled with paper, with many of these things and more, which I couldn't really make all of them. I didn't have the time. Bertie and I worked hours and hours, weekends, to make these few things. So we're not going to learn them. You can make them by coming up and looking at the exhibit. And when you see the possibilities in this very simple fold, you'll be surprised at the simplicity of the fold and of the many uses you can make of it because it has pockets. And all you do is stick something in a pocket. For instance, this sled. It's just the same box that the train is. Please, will you look at this beautiful little choo-choo train that Bertie made? It took him all day Sunday to make it, but isn't it, darling? It's like one of those little engines that say, I can't, I did, you know. And so all you do is take, I don't know if you've got this in so good that I won't disturb it, but I will show you one of the others.
Let's pull that one apart.
Yes, all right. This is a clock. I don't know if it looks like a clock to you, but this is your shuttle fold. See? It looks a little bit like a shuttle. It has 2 points. This is usually round and round with wool, and then you throw it between the warp and the woof. As you put down your pedal of your big loom, which I used to do, that opens up and you throw this through, and then you put down your pedal, and it goes like that, and then it goes through that way. So anyway, this is the shuttle fold, and the versatility of it is that if you make 2 of them, and you put one inside the other, like this, you make 2 of them, you have pockets on both sides, which you can use, and you're going to have such a lot of fun with this, figuring out your own way of making things. And what you have to do to make it stay, because it is only paper, is to use these little attachments. You'll have to figure out a piece of cardboard in here strengthens it so that you won't have any problem about it tipping out. And you can make all kinds. There is no limit to what you can make. If you stick something in here, like I did here, it makes a couch, and it's just a box. And if you put two boxes together, you'll have the pocket this way. You can stick up a piece of paper with wheels or with posts for a bed, and you can have a headboard and a front board. And we started to make a kitchen, and it's the same thing. It's just a piece that you put in here, just a box, shuttle fold, and you strengthen it with a piece of cardboard. I hope you're going to like playing with paper and cardboard. I am telling you honestly, it's not origami, pure origami, because we try, when we're purists, never to cut or tear or staple or clip or do anything to mar the paper. That's why we can do it with money, because it's illegal to tamper with legal paper, but we never do anything to harm it. You can just unfold it and spend it. But it's a wonderful thing to have that, a crisp new dollar bill. But this has so many possibilities. This Marie Martin made for me, and it's so old that it's falling to pieces. When you come and look at the exhibit, please, if you must handle it, will you handle it with care, because they're very old. This is a little trunk. Because nobody uses a trunk today, so it's funny to show it. But I thought it was so cute. And this, too, was a little suitcase. And inside is just another box that fits another shuttle, and you can do so many things with it. And that's a little suitcase. See, the paper is important, what you choose for the paper. And anyway, here's our little choo-choo train. And it can be used for a child to play with. And we have the coal car with a lot of chocolate M&Ms in it. That was Bertie's idea, because he likes M&Ms. And you can make sleds and cribs. And I showed it to my class at the new school. I've been teaching for about 20-odd years in the new school. And one of the girls came to me the next week with this. This is just another box tucked into the pocket. You can tuck in one thing after another. And she made, it's rather large in scale, but I think it's pretty. And then all kinds of things that Diane was nice enough to put together for me, because I was sorry to be late. And this is a simple bureau, and just put a piece on like that, take it off and put it in the box. You do what you did it before. I'm too eager. And I have lots of things here made of all kinds of things. Some of them I haven't even unpacked. But I think I've talked too much, so I'd like to teach you the shuttle fold, and then leave it to your imagination, because if I tried to make one of these passenger cars or something, we would need a good few hours, and I would rather let you figure it out. If you like it, figure it out yourself, what you want to do with it. All right, now have you all got paper? Origami paper, you can use anything. Excuse me. Thank you, dear. But then the sun went behind the clouds and it got very dark, and it started to rain and thunder and lightning, and a great stroke of lightning came down and tore off the poop deck. Little David jumped for his life and ran to the Coast Guard, but before he could get there was nothing left but the captain's shirt. And when we were doing our puppetry, Bertie reminds me, sometimes there was a little boy named David in the audience. And he came up and I put it on him. And then he got a vote of confidence from the audience, and they all applauded. And you know, if it goes on a grown-up... We have a David? Come, David. You want to wear the shirt? That's one of my favorite things. It's a big boy. Would you turn around and face the audience? Thank you. He's a big boy, and we only have a little headpiece here. So the way we do a little change, it's so easy with paper. We just tear it a little bit, tear his head, and close your eyes. I don't want anything to happen to you. There. And then I would say to the little fellow, would you like to take it home with you? Close your eyes and take it home. Close your eyes. Yes. And then I would say, would you like to take it home? And sometimes they looked at me and say, no. Oh, good. So, I hope you all had a good time this afternoon. And although I'm really at the end, almost 90, I would love to go on teaching every chance I have because it brings me so much pleasure. So thank you, and come again. Thank you. David, Bertie wants to give you something. David, Bertie wants to give you something. Bertie has his own way of making the flapping bird, which is much better, he thinks, than the traditional bird that flutters its wings like a butterfly. Maybe you can figure out how to do it. Is there a basket in the room? Do you have any snippets already? Do you have a basket in the room? I can make a basket in the room. I'm looking for a garbage pan. We have a garbage line that we make.